meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. We're here at 109 East Olive in Washington, and of course we are also virtual this evening. Can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Castillo?
Present.
Mr. Coos?
Present.
Ms. Giselle? Shows that she's on the call, but I think we might be having some microphone issues. We'll come back. Ms. Grayling?
Present.
Ms. Peters?
Ms. Peters?
Present.
Chairperson Charnett?
Present.
Right, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment this evening?
We do not, Chairperson Charnett, and I just want to note that Ms. Giselle raised her hand, so even if she might be having some microphone issues, but she is able to hear us.
Thank you. Okay, without any public comment, let's move on to the minutes of the January 21st meeting. We skipped February, so here we are in March, and it's pretty nice not to have met in February because it was an extremely busy month for everyone, right?
Right.
I couldn't have made it anyway. I had COVID, so here we go. So life continues to move on. Do we have any revisions to the minutes?
I have none. I know.
Okay.
Is it weird?
All right.
So I would move that we adopt them as they are written, unless somebody else has a change.
Okay.
Usually Ms. Giselle comes up with something. If I don't find it.
Okay.
I will second that if that was a motion.
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Castillo?
Yes.
Mr. Coos?
Yes.
Ms. Giselle? Raised your hand again, yes. Ms. Grayling?
Yes.
Ms. Peters?
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you. All right. We can move on with our regular agenda this evening. Consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Christopher and Carolyn Stuckey for certificate of appropriateness for roof replacement and repairs at 1212 East Washington Street. This is BHP 0121. Could staff please provide some report on that?
All right, so as Mr. Charnett stated, this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness for roof replacement and repair at 1212 East Washington. Here is the site, courtesy of Google. The repairs would entail new laminate asphalt shingles and underlayment, installing ice and water barriers at eaves, valleys, and flashing, new drip edges on rakes and pipe boots on plumbing vents, and shingles over the ridge and intake vents, as well as reflashing the brick chimney with a new aluminum step and counter flashing. I got ahead of myself here. We're recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness. Here's the applicant provided both the retailer, I guess, of the shingles, as well as current photos of the existing shingles. Reportedly, they have aged beyond their usefulness. They're currently made of asphalt. Here's the existing shingles here, and then courtesy of the retailer's brochure, here's a rendering of their shingles. Should be noted, they come in a variety of shades, so this isn't necessarily representative of what's being proposed in terms of color. As to the findings of fact, staff found that all of the standards for a certificate of appropriateness were met. I can go more into detail about the analysis if requested, but for the sake of brevity, here's this table. And with that, we are recommending approval of the certificate of appropriateness.
Do we have anyone on the call for the property?
The applicant is here in person at City Hall.
Okay. Not seeing. So. There it is. Okay, City Hall is muted. Can you unmute that somehow? There we go. All right. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I'm Christopher Stuckey. My address is 1212 East Washington Street in Bloomington.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey. And do you swear or affirm that the information you're about to give is truthful?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your project and what you would like us to know as a commission as we vote on behalf of your project this evening.
Sure. So we have lived in the house, I believe, coming up on 5 years. And over that time, especially in the last couple of years, any wind event is starting to blow shingles off the roof. Initially, just in line with what we knew about the guidelines with the historic property, we've been doing our best to sort of repair problems as they come up, as opposed to replacing anything. I think over a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I started getting estimates from roofers on what it would take to have the shingles replaced. Eventually, had talked to Carlson and accepted what their proposal was, although it's been a year now. So with COVID and everything, we put the project off for a while. As the report had said, we were pretty careful to have something that's pretty close in appearance and the same in material as what's already on the house. I think that the products that were in the brochure are gonna look good there. Not exactly the same color-wise. I know that was something that I wanted to prepare to speak to in case there were any questions on that. I did bring along a sample. I didn't know who would be here to look at it, but I know that color is difficult to gauge in an online forum, so I don't know that it is greatly useful, but I do have a sample of the color that I would like to use. And I'm happy to hold that up or send it into the other room or however you'd like to do that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you'll hold it up, then we can come and get it here.
So this is, if you check, I think the material included with the application, New England Slate is the name of this color. As with all of these colors, they've got a little variation between the different flaps. I think just to mimic the idea of it being more of a slate looking product. But overall, pretty close to what's already there, a little darker, possibly a little more of a green-blue tint than what's on there, but it's also difficult to tell with the shingles that are currently on the house what their original nature might have been. They're faded and sort of a lighter gray right now. So I felt like this was a pretty close match. I'll send this over.
Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, was there anything else that you wanted to share with us? Sorry.
I don't think so. The application is very thorough, and I really appreciate the work that Caitlin had done on that. I think having looked through it, it was, as someone else had said, a really good and thorough job. And I think it gives the character of what we want to convey right off the bat. We're real respectful of the history and the makeup of the house. We're happy to live in it. I think this overall is going to be an improvement that should make it look nicer while being in line with what we want to do as far as preservation.
Okay. Okay. And this is a lifetime warranty shingle, is what I'm seeing here on the sample that you have submitted. Good to know. Okay. Then I would go ahead and turn this over to discussion. Thank you, Mr. Stuckey.
Well, this is George Boyle. Are you guys, have there been any, are there any questions, do you know, for the applicant? Or is that what you're talking about with discussion?
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I'm at is who has questions? Looks like Greg has some questions here.
Yeah, it appears as if the shingle, the slate imitated shingle, has clipped ends, and my question on that actually goes to you know, it's a very pretty roof. There's no question of the fact it'll look great up there, you know. However, the porch roof, is the porch roof part of this project? I think it is. And the porch roof would have never had a slate roof because of the weight. And I would ask of whether it would be possible if the homeowner would consider a squared end shingle-like that would differentiate itself from that, which is, it could be the same product, same manufacturer, same color, but at least differentiate the effect on that lower roof than on the attic roof. And it's based on, again, that slate would not have been used on a low-pitched porch roof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would echo that, Greg. That one of my questions would be, you know, do we have any record of what material was up there at some point? You know, a lot of low slope roofs like this, we saw metal.
Yeah, that'd be standing seam. Yeah, metal, painted. And since we're not, I want to be sensitive to what the homeowner is attempting to do here, replacing like with like. And so what I'm not trying to put up a roadblock to the project. I'm simply saying, is there a way to differentiate between those two surfaces slightly, so is it that it doesn't, I think a slate-like look would not, on that lower roof, would not necessarily achieve the goal in which the owner is hoping to achieve.
Do you want to comment on that, Mr. Stuckey? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's valid, and I'm happy to talk with Nick at Carlson about whether there's an option in this product to have it. Is it primarily the cut of these shingles that would maybe provide that differentiation? I want to be clear on what I might look to there.
I think it would be a slightly different product. It's all still certainteed, so you'd have a you know, the same color palette to be able to choose from. But I think with the clipped ends, to Mr. Koos's comment, that the clipped ends and that larger shingle have a much greater presence on the roof, and therefore it looks weightier than something that you might have below in a smaller footprint. That each shingle might be a little bit smaller than some of these gargantuan things. So.
Okay. Yeah, we're absolutely open to looking at that.
It might even be less expensive.
I'm
Ms. Peters.
Looking at the quote here from Carlson, and it looks like it might have a different product quoted. It says install certainty flint plastic over low slope back and small front roof lines.
Yeah, the flint lastic is it's just a preparation that goes over that. That's not an exposed roof.
Okay. I
Shingle.
didn't know if that was like the membrane that.
Yeah, I wondered.
I'm
too.
pretty sure about that. I'm just gonna look at it real fast.
I don't know enough about roofing stuff.
Yeah, that's it's to be applied to the low slope roofing. But that's a good point though, because it doesn't really show for sure on this quote. And to your point, that he may only have the upper roof shown on this, because normally that front lastic is something that gets covered over. But it just says the house roof. It's not differentiating the upper roof and the lower roof. Can you clarify that for us, Mr. Stuckey?
I'm having difficulty hearing both of you right now. I caught very little of what either of you had asked.
If I may, I'll go ahead and repeat.
Thank you.
Please stop me if you've heard this before. The quote is not clear about the extent of the shingles. It seems to indicate there's a flint lastic cover on the low slope roof and the front roof lines. It doesn't look like usually that flint lastic would be something that you would put on either on a roof that you're not going to see, or you're going to cover it up with shingles. But the quote does not differentiate whether the upper roof and the lower roof will be the same product ultimately. Can you clarify that?
My understanding, at least of the discussion so far with Carlson, would be that both the upper and lower roof are the same product. We haven't talked about any different products. The only section of roof that I would think of as potentially not being visible is in the back. There's a flat section over the kitchen in the back room of the first floor that extends out beyond the second floor. And so I don't know whether that is something that would be treated differently. But yeah, frankly, we hadn't talked about that. But as far as anything visible, no. What we discussed so far would have been the same material on both the upper and lower parts.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Stuckey? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Stuckey. We're going to have a little discussion and then proceed with the vote. Okay, let's open it up for discussion here, just between members here. How do we want to proceed? Greg, please go ahead.
Well, do you know, could we have for the record whether there's anyone else speaking on the matter? I don't think that there is, but I don't know that there's been a statement.
Yeah, there's nobody else in there, as far as I can see. Yeah. Okay. Katie confirmed he's the only person. So
Okay.
that's it.
And no one on the call.
This is also very difficult on Zoom. It's one thing if we're all in person meeting together. It's pretty obvious if there's anybody else here. But
I know. I just know that for the Open Meetings Act things, we're just told to make an audio record.
George, no one registered to speak on this item.
That's it. Just doing my job.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Coos, please go ahead.
My only question, what we discussed is, should the applicant will be meeting with his roofer to discuss, an alternate product. It might be even something as simple as a rolled material that is often used on very low pitched roofs. But do we want to empower either staff or the chair to make a final approval of a second look at a product, or simply suggest that the homeowner move on and do what is right? That's my question.
Well, I might add one thought to that, and that we're essentially saying we would allow something that's of a almost of a lesser product because it's not quite to the compatibility of Slate. So if we did issue our certificate of appropriateness this evening, we're sort of saying, yes, you've met the minimums for all of this, and anything that we're going to do better than this would of course work. So with that in mind, I certainly wouldn't have any problem if staff wanted to forward any information to me from the lower roof, and if there's anybody else interested, I could forward it along. But I'm sure that this would be a pretty fast decision to be able to look at it and say, yeah, this works.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is to get a quick decision, not to extend this over another meeting.
Yeah.
If the commission is going to go that route, I would recommend that there's a motion to put a condition on the certificate of appropriateness, and then you can outline the specifics as to what you're looking for. So that way staff, when that comes across our table, we know what specific material you're looking for, and then you can motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness with the condition that you just adopted.
Okay.
Okay, so should we discuss exactly what that would be then, that lower roof look that we're shooting for?
I do know that our house, which is a 1905 house, we just roofed a year ago, and we did have a membrane put on our lower porch roof, and you can't see it from the street. So, and it looks very much like what was there before, which was painted metal, but the painted metal was deteriorated to the point of it just, and then they tried to put something else and that deteriorated. And so essentially this is finally covered over all of that. Well, some of it was taken off. And yes, it wouldn't be as expensive, that's for certain. So, and yes, I have heard the same as you've all said, which is that you find actual slate shingles on a low roof like that because of the weight. So,
Yeah, I think a low slope roof or a membrane roof might actually be more detrimental if totally exposed like this, because visually this is of a slightly higher pitch than we would see on some of those lower slope roofs. And because it's already shingled as it is, it's sort of become part of the expectation when you are going past the house. So I mean, my thought is that probably a membrane roof wouldn't be appropriate, but I'd be okay with a shingle, just maybe a different shingle than the shingle that's up above.
okay.
So the resolution would be to ask for more of a, not a shake, but more of a, I don't want to get the sense of different materials. I think just to match the color that they choose for that upper roof, and use that same color with a low impact, something that doesn't look as tall and as thick. That is not, I don't know how that turns into a resolution.
Yep. You're looking for a petite look.
Yeah. It could be an architectural shingle or a 3-tab shingle of some kind that still carries a similar warranty, similar color and texture, and then the exact specifications of how big those are, we could discuss once I see the product samples. Okay. Well, then
would your motion be to approve it with the condition that this be inquired into, and then give either you, Paul, or staff the ability to determine whether the condition's been met?
That sounds reasonable.
Yes.
I don't know if I correctly phrased the condition you're looking for, but if you can state the condition and then, or whoever's making the motion, and then, delegate who could decide if that, who has the authority to decide if it's met? I mean,
Well, I would entertain such motion if we're ready to proceed. Then. Was that you raising your hand, Greg?
Oh, well, okay. You want me to try to do something out of my head? Okay,
Sorry, I thought I saw your hand raised up. I wasn't
okay.
trying to put you on spot.
Accept the material is submitted for the upper roof, and for the lower roof, a material of same type and color with less visual impact to be approved by the chair through the staff.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay. Can we please have a roll call? vote?
Katie, are you acting as secretary?
I am, George. You're just too quick.
Did you get the motion? No. I'm not talking about the roll call. I just meant, did you feel that you have the motion?
So I have a motion from Mr. Coos to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the upper roof as presented, and with the condition that the lower roof is of a material of similar size and color with less of a visual impact, and that material would be approved by the chair. Is that correct?
I believe that is.
Okay. Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Ms. Chiselle,
There, raised hand.
okay. Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Mr. Stuckey. It's a beautiful home, and we look forward to you keeping it up and keeping it around for a good long time. So thank you very much for your time this evening. You're welcome to stay, or you can. Yep. I'm gonna give you your sample back. Thank you. You may need that. You never know, for comparison's sake. So, so thank you very much. Take care. All right, let's move on to BHP 0221. This is a certificate of appropriateness for 702 East Grove Street, the Augustus LB House. This is replacement of shingles and roofing as well.
So staff is recommending approval of this certificate of appropriateness as well. Here is a site photo. The proposed work entails, again, new laminate asphalt shingles and underlayment. I believe the existing are asphalt as well. Metal aging to the gables, ice and water shield at eaves and valleys, new vents, and new flashing on all roof protrusions. I believe this is a continuation of work that was a COA was sought for in 2018 on the south and southeast facing parts of the roof. The applicant provided a photo of the replacement in that case as compared to what is being proposed to be replaced now under the current COA, as well as a retailer for the shingles. This is again from their brochure and comes in a variety of shades, so this isn't necessarily representative of the proposed shade. I believe it's going to be the same as was used in the 2018 project. And staff again finds all standards have been met for the certificate of appropriateness, and I can go further into detail in the analysis if you would like, but we are recommending approval of the COA.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone here for representation on this case?
Mr. Williams is on the phone, on the call. He'll have to hit *6 in order to unmute himself.
Okay. Waiting for unmuted. Okay, doesn't seem to want to unmute. Oh, there it is.
Can you guys hear me now?
We sure
There you
can.
go. Yep.
Great.
Okay. Excellent. Mr. Williams, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Brad Williams, 613 East Grove Street, Bloomington, Illinois.
And do you swear or affirm to that the information that you're about to give is the whole truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams, I see your property has come up. So this is a pretty good looking piece, and you're continuing on this. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing here?
Just doing the roof in sections as to make it more affordable, I guess. And so we've done the northeast corner in the photograph that has the new and the old. We've done the northeast corner, and then we've completed, actually the east and the south is completed. That photo you guys are looking at was when the chimney was being rebuilt, and then that section where the chimney is and the south is finished now. And so we're doing the west and the north on this. We're going to try to finish up the roof this go round.
Good.
Great. The roof that you're proposing here, everything is staying the same color, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I included that photo that actually shows the new shingles and versus the old shingles. So you can see the difference in the color. The color is a more variegated color in the new stuff, more variegated than the old.
And is this just the upper roof? This is not the lower roof on the porch?
The lower roof on the porch is already finished.
Okay.
And so is the cone roof that's to the left of the scaffolding. That's already done, and we got rid of those ugly-looking ridge cap pieces. And what we did was we cut individual random width shingles and shingled the cone with new asphalt shingles on that cone roof that's facing southeast.
What a job.
No kidding.
Yeah, it looks really nice now.
Okay. Very good. Okay.
The slate will stay on the big cone on the tower and the turret. The slate will not be changed at all on that roof. The garage is getting done also. And any other little roofs, he's taking care of all of that. There's a flat roof over the back porch. That's going to get redone. Can't think of anything else. There's a widow's walk. Redo that. That doesn't show at all. The widow's walk does not show. I can't think of anything else detail-wise. Nothing's really changing. We're not changing anything. I will be there to make sure that nothing, on a daily basis, I'll be there to make sure that nothing it gets changed.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from commission members? Okay. Well, then, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Williams. We'll have a brief discussion and move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chairperson Charnett, I just want to clarify, no one else registered to speak on this item, and no one is present at City Hall to
Okay.
speak on the item.
Thank you very much. I should have known that was coming for George's sake. Okay, moving forward, do we need to discuss, or is there anything else left to review? No other comments? Okay, well then I would entertain a motion.
I will
move
second
to
that
accept it.
motion. Oh,
So it sounded like Greg was motioning for approval, and we have a second for Mr. Castillo.
yes.
Okay,
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor. Can we please have a vote?
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle, raise your hand again. Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Onward and upward.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda this evening is BHP 03-21. This is a certificate of appropriateness for 319 East Chestnut Street. This is the Francis Funk House in the Italianate Victorian style. This is replacement of the storm windows. Could we please have staff provide some commentary on this?
Staff found that this request met the zoning ordinance's guidelines for certificate of appropriateness, and we're recommending that the commission recommend approval. Here is a site photo courtesy of Katie. The proposed work entails the replacement of 46 storm windows on the property, the condition of which many are inoperable or missing due to age. And I believe the current finish is a mill finish. The proposed replacements would be the same in terms of size and color. It's just that the finish would be white instead to match the window trimmings rather than that aluminum. And yeah, I can go into more detail about the analysis, but we found that it met all of the standards for a certificate of appropriateness. Our approval.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here to represent the owner or the property this evening?
Yes, Chairman, it's Tim Maurer.
Good evening, Mr. Maurer. Good to hear from you.
Good evening to you, Mr. Charnett. How are you?
Doing well. It is better to be here without COVID than being at home with it.
I can imagine. I'm glad you've survived and can join us tonight.
Yes, as am I. Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Tim Maurer, 317 East Chestnut Street, Bloomington, Illinois.
Thank you very much. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth this evening?
Certainly, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's proceed. Can you give us a little bit about what's going on, a little bit of information about what's going on with your project here, and particularly how this impacts some of those windows that are remaining?
Excuse me, got a piece of dust in my throat. Yes, the project is a continuation of much of the restoration and rehabilitation we've been doing on the building, on the inside and outside. This one is the east half of the building, and I would like to echo Mr. Stuckey that staff, Caitlin, did an excellent job on the write-up. The one thing I would note is that that is relevant for your consideration is that the write-up says the north and the south faces. It's actually half of the north and half of the south and all of the east elevations of the building at 319 and a half East Chestnut Street. And so we're replacing all of that side of the building's storm windows. I'm estimating they're somewhere in the 50-year range. amazingly stalwart windows in terms of if you just get the panes and the frames and everything aligned correctly, you can shut out some of the cold air. Operating them so that you can ventilate or even escape the building is almost impossible on most of them. And that's just because it's mill finish aluminum, it's high thickness material. It's got lots of oxidation over the years from just being exposed to, to the weather. And so they're definitely time to be replaced. We're choosing windows, the Anderson brand through Menards. They're the premium series. I think they look pretty good, and certainly better than what's there. The one other thing that's relevant for your consideration is that they are the ones that are on the building would be overlap in the sense that you just put them up against the window opening and you attach them through flanges that attach directly into the window casing on the outside. These are blind stoppers, means they fit inside that casing and then adjust out and attach. So I would say they'd have a better appearance because you won't have that sort of overlap look. We've replaced the heating and ventilating and cooling systems in the building, and with these operable storm windows that are functional, I think it'll optimize that aspect, and I think it'll do so in a long-term preservation of the building perspective. I'm open to any questions. That's pretty much the rundown there, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I do have some questions. You referred to the detailing on this being slightly different. Is the trim underneath in pretty good condition?
Yes, the window casing trim is in good condition. Once we take off the existing windows, where that flange covers the window casing, it will require scraping, painting, and caulking to some extent, I'm sure. But I don't. And if there's a piece of rotten material, we'll replace it. But I don't know of any that's a major issue. That's why I didn't include it in there. It's just the kind of touch up the opening as you're putting the new window in.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Can you also talk a little bit about the visible light size? So these new windows, the new storm windows, will they reduce the net visible area?
No, I don't think so. I think it's probably, in fact, my contractor, who's probably still on the meeting, could speak to this more accurately than I, since he's done some large restoration storm window projects. But my understanding from the ones that I've seen and the one I purchased is that the glass size is going to be at least as big, if not more glass and less aluminum than the existing.
Good.
Okay, so the
At
reason
least
I'm
comparable.
asking, just want to understand that we're not, if you're looking out from the inside, there's not less visibility than what you have now. Okay.
No, because Chairman, I see what you're coming from. It's comparable, and even though it's blind stop install, you should keep in mind, as I know you do, that the interior windows are operable double hung windows, so they have the muttons and mullions of those windows reduce the vision, because they're original windows, just to what the glass size is. These will be outside of that. So it's not going to decrease the appearance from the outside or the visible from the inside.
Good. One last question on that. I wasn't clear from what you're saying. Are these going to be a double hung storm window, or is this going to be a single sash, as it were, for the window?
No, they're operable double sash with a screen.
Okay.
And so the screen, I believe, and Brad can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe excuse me, the screen and the upper window are in line, and then there's an inside lower pane window that goes up and can be retained in an up position.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Am I still on?
You are. So I think we have to swear you in on this one again.
Okay.
So please state your name and address for the record.
Brad Williams, 613 East Grove Street, Bloomington, Illinois.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth this evening?
Yes, I do.
Not any other time, just this evening. But please go ahead.
Well, Tim was talking about the windows. He mentioned they're Anderson. They're actually Larson Windows.
Yeah, sorry, Larson, you're right.
And they're the premium series. It's commonly called a 2-track. The fixed storm stacks over the screen. However, they are removable. And then there's one operating sash on the inside. And all of that stuff is actually movable. It's a really nice, high-quality storm window. It's got the frame does not need a bar in the center because the aluminum is so heavy gauge that it won't expand actually in the center, so they don't have a bar across there. A lot of the less expensive storm windows used to have a bar that attached the frame from all the way across, and these two they don't need a bar. It's a very heavy gauge aluminum. It's got a really nice finish on it. These are probably 75-year product. I don't know. You guys have any other questions?
75 years, huh, Brad? Well, we'll be able to make it to the end of their life, then, no doubt.
Yeah, I probably am not going to be around when those wear out.
Yeah, me either.
Okay, sounds like we've got some questions for you. If you'll please stay on. Mr. Coos, please.
Okay. Is there any, and I think Mr. Maurer may have referred to this, but I didn't get it clearly. So, Mr. Williams, is there any interior or any repairs that needed to be done to the sashes, any removal, any sill work, anything that would affect the appearance of those parts of the house?
I'm not aware of anything as far as the windows go. I know that some of the stops on the inside may need some additional fasteners, and that's about all that I have figured. That building is actually in pretty decent shape. The sills, the jambs, the windows, the sashes themselves are all have been fairly well taken care of or maintained over the years. This is basically just a storm window project.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Yeah, this was certainly a question that was floating in my head because we wanted to make sure that the storm windows were just that, just storm windows, that we weren't going to hurt the existing building, but preserve the existing building as we move forward with all of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there anyone else to speak on behalf of this? Okay. All right. Then as such, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. Thank you very much, Mr. Maurer. And we'll
Thank you.
move forward.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. I'd open this up for some discussion.
Well, it sounds like that this project will make the windows a lot more accessible as far as opening and shutting and getting the cold out and all of that, and keeping the coolness in the in the summer. So I would say, yes, storm windows are a great thing. It allows you to use your original windows and still bring things up to a standard where everybody likes to live in it.
Absolutely. Any other items? Should we, I'd entertain a motion if there is no other discussion.
I move that we approve the petition submitted by Tim Maurer for the certificate of appropriateness on case BHP 0321.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and if I may, I would like to suggest one slight modification, and that is, I don't see in the packet here, and perhaps I missed it, but I don't see a drawing of some kind that shows the perimeter or the detail of this.
Okay.
And I think I'd just like to see it, so that we can sort of know how this thing is going to look, and that we know that it won't reduce the net free area. One of the concerns that I, of course, had was that we're preserving these interior windows. That's really what storm windows are doing from a historic preservation perspective.
Right.
But also, these windows should not reduce the existing beauty that is already there.
I had that same question, and I just Googled the, it's the Larson 203 storm window.
I'm Googling now.
Larson L203. And so you can see the double hung.
Ms. Grayling, do you want to withdraw your motion for a second while we're discussing
Yeah.
this? Okay.
Yeah, well, I would withdraw that motion.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If everybody's Googling, that's one thing, but we're still going to need to have something for the record.
That's a very good point. Is this dispositive?
Could one of the staff put that on the screen so we could all see it?
Including the applicant.
Am I not seeing the right? Did I not
I
go
got
far
it.
enough?
Can you
Yeah,
see my
not yet.
screen?
Ah, good. Yay.
All right, so this is the one I found right here. So it's the it's this 2-track L203.
It's what's on the quote. The L203 is on the quote.
Yep.
So it should be correct. Yeah, I see the L203. Okay, so it's the 2-track. Yeah, it's exactly what's shown on the quote. So that makes perfect sense.
So do we
Cool.
just get an image included with the certificate, or?
Well, I think this certainly answers my question. It doesn't look like this is reducing the net free area. You know, maybe a 1/4 inch or something, but I think that's pretty reasonable for
Yeah.
what we're accomplishing here. Is everybody else pretty good with that, or should we discuss that further?
No, I'm good with it. Anything with a 75-year lifespan, that's pretty good.
Okay, well then there's probably not a whole lot of condition that needs to go back on it, so perhaps we can just go back to Ms. Grayling's first motion.
Okay, then I'll resubmit that motion, which is regarding case BHP 0321. I submit that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for the storm windows at 319 East Chestnut Street.
Okay.
I
We have-
second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Ms. Chisel. Yes.
Yep.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. The motion passes.
Yay.
Okay, thank you very much. Onward to BHP 4-21, consideration, review, and action on the petition submitted by Mr. Maurer for a fund grant on the same property for the same items. So, do we need to have staff report, or? I guess so.
I don't have to report on this. It's here if you would like it.
Okay. All right. I think we know what this is about. If there are, I think we should still invite the petitioner to provide some commentary if needed. Mr. Maurer, do you have any comments you want to share?
I hear I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't know that I have any additional information to provide other than this is, as you can see from the quote and the material cost, this would be a significant portion, but certainly there's a major investment involved in doing just half the building. Our intention is to do the entire building and but do it in two sections like we did the rear porch of 319 and a half and 319, which were also COAs and fund grant recipients awards. And so in total, probably going to be close to 100 openings done on this building. So it's going to be a significant effort. Looking forward to working with Brad on it. And if you have any questions about the fund grant application, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does the commission have any other comments or questions for Mr. Maurer? And should we also ask if Mr. Williams wants to comment on anything, since he's sort of supporting the case? I think you're
Yeah,
unmuted.
can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any specific questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm here if you have any.
All right, and since there's no one else, since we've already worked on the first part, we can continue on. Thank you very much, Mr. Maurer, Mr. Williams, and we'll open this up for discussion.
Thank you.
In my opinion, when you start to think about it, anything that can significantly improve the life of a building, the usefulness of the building, the energy efficiency, and protects the actual existing original windows, I think this one is a no-brainer to give money towards an effort like this.
Mr. Coos, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I would like to have something that's part of the record on this, that the storm window is a different, what this commission is taking a position is the storm window is as a faux product, if you will, as a product that is using materials that are not original to the property. They're replacing similar materials. That this standard for storm windows, which does so much to preserve the original wooden sash, is the reason why it is being approved and why it is getting grant money. And that other manufactured home improvement products, which make similar claims, such as faux siding, would not be covered by this kind of decision.
Yes, yes, I think that's a very wise distinction, and I concur with that wholeheartedly.
I do too.
We've had a very strong precedent about what we've approved in the past, In this instance, these storm windows are not only directly preserving these elements, but they're not inhibiting the future of any of that, and they can easily be removed without detriment
Yep.
to the facility.
Yeah. I agree.
Ms. Peters, please.
The only question I have is procedural, and it's because probably I'm newer, as far as doing a grant applying to like half projects. Is that something that we typically do? That was
So
my question.
the project scope is often up to the owner as far as how big the project is going to be, because it's usually what they can afford.
Right.
And the grant is only eligible up until 5,000. So obviously we wouldn't be able to go any more past that. So I think that breaking it out into something that's manageable, that can be done in a season or within a time frame that is accomplishable by the owner is probably what's dictating a lot of this, and that's
Right.
how we've viewed it in the past.
So we don't have any like guidelines like around that.
I think we can only do one project per calendar year for a situation like this. So we can't do this one and then 3 months we come back and do the other half or whatever. So they are precluded to having to wait for the next part.
And I would add too that as construction costs go up from year to year, there's not really a benefit in waiting. It's usually more beneficial to try and get the whole project done sooner rather than later. Unless you want to stretch something out over 50 years, the value of $5,000 sort of goes downhill really
I'm
fast.
just curious if we had a standard around that.
So, no, I think it's a great question though. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve or not.
I move that we approve the fund grant application.
I second it.
Okay. Please have a roll call vote.
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle? Yes. Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Ms. Peters,
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett.
Yes. The motion
Carries.
passes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Charnett, I have a touch of a follow-up on both of these pieces, and that is just for, again, historic record. I noted with great delight that Mr. Maurer had copies of Pillsbury drawings for the remodeling that took place in 1913. And the documents that we have state that an architect is not known, and that we are calling the property the Frank Funk House. And I would suggest that we update the historic naming of the property to reflect this Pillsbury episode and call it a Funk/Hoblet House, and indicate in our records that the architect was A.L. Pillsbury.
I certainly am not opposed to that. Anyone else would agree. I thank you very much, Mr. Coos. I certainly would not have caught that in the same way that you did. There's a reason that your eyes are on this. And being an architect, you'd think that I would catch all the little references to architects, right? It's kind of my job. Okay. All right. Well, then we can move on to, it looks like old business is next. Do we have any old business to discuss? Okay. Okay. Then we can move on to new business. We have election of a vice chair up first. So previously, we have not had a significant enough portion of people where if we elected someone, we could still have a quorum. So hence the challenge in selecting a vice chair. In the past, we've done nominations, usually on a little piece of paper. It gets handed to somebody down the aisle, and that's kind of how it is. Kind of more difficult over Zoom. So, but we do have a chat window in Zoom. Or we did. Maybe it's not here. Oh no, it doesn't look like I can do the chat.
You know, I will say for the other commissions, it's just been normally an oral, nomination, and a kind of like either a motion with a second or just I nominate so and so, and then a vote.
Okay.
If there's more than one nominee, I'm just saying that that's generally how it's been done. And it's helpful with the Zoom idea too, that there needs to be a record, an audio record.
Well, I would make a nomination for Mr. Coos to be vice chair, and I'm certainly surprising him in doing that. But as he's been on this commission before, was one of the founding members, and certainly has a record in this community of historic preservation that is second to none. I think that he would do quite well in the position.
I would second that nomination.
Speaking on behalf of the nominee, thank you. Happy to do it. I presume that Mr. Charnett will continue running these meetings as well as he does, because I simply do not know the procedures, the protocols, and the methods that Mr. Charnett has mastered here. And so should I be called upon to sit in as chair, you would have to understand that I would make complete bollocks of it and embarrass everyone. So Mr. Charnett, be forewarned.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Coos. I appreciate your vote of confidence, because I don't know that I do this so well. But
as a past chair, I have been a bollocks and people forgave me. So there you go. I'm sure you'll do better than I did.
I think Mr. Coos knows how to undersell and overdeliver.
I think you're right.
You're quite right. Well, with that, should we have a vote? And of course, Mr. Coos will need to recuse himself.
Could we just have a record as to whether there's any other nominations?
Yes. Are there any other nominations? Thank you, George. I should have asked for that.
That's all right. I've got to say something now and then, to prove I'm still here,
Talking about making a bollocks of it. This is. Okay, I don't see any other nominations, so sounds like we could make a vote here.
Mr. Castillo.
Yes.
Mr. Coos is recusing himself. Ms. Chisel? Yes. Ms. Grayling?
Yes.
Ms. Peters?
Yes.
Chairperson Charnett?
Yes. Okay, it passes, and Mr. Coos is now our vice chair. Okay, now as our newly elected vice chair, we can start talking about the next piece here. Adoption of a resolution recommending City Council pass an ordinance and resolution to facilitate the reallocation of unawarded rust and funk grant funding to the Brick Street Preservation and Restoration. Katie, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here?
Sure, thank you. So the Rust and the Funk grant are two annual grants that the preservation program manages. They come from the general fund. At the end of the year, if funds are not allocated, they go back into the general fund. And the commission has, in the past, has noted the importance of preserving brick streets, and we've been able to coordinate with the Public Works Department to allocate any unused grant monies from this current fiscal year. We would transfer those into, or recommend that City Council transfer those into an open streets and sidewalk contract. And then as work is done on the brick streets rather than patching the street with concrete. The contractors, the additional funding helps to pay for the labor and materials to patch the to patch the street back with brick. So furthering the longevity of the street and reducing any new concrete patches that will jeopardize or compromise the 3 miles of streets that we have in the city. So this year we have about $82,000 left in both funds. Collectively, there's $63,000 left in the REST grant and $18,000 remaining in the FUNK grant. The commission, if you choose to move forward with this, you would adopt a resolution, and then it would go before City Council in April for a budget amendment and a transfer of the funding. And then the $82 would be allocated to the contract to help pay for that work over the remainder of the contract. So it's something that we have done in the past, just to try to help assist with the preservation of the brick streets, many of which are in our historic districts and historic neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd certainly open it up for discussion. I think this has sort of been precedent for the leftover funds. Mr. Coos, go ahead.
Yeah, if this has been precedent, I'm assuming that apparently every year a resolution has been passed, doing so. And I would encourage that this resolution be changed to, it will be the practice forthwith, the ongoing, as opposed to each year putting in front of City Council that you're not spending all the money. I think the fact that about 50% of the funds went unspent could be read wrongly by those who are looking for budgetary activity, okay? And so I would think that this resolution should state that due to the general depression in construction industry as a result of COVID, that the figures here are unusually high, and that the commission does not expect to see such surpluses in future years, and that this fund should not be looked at as a substitute for the city funding and preservation of its brick streets. So I think we need to actually send a message with this, because otherwise a council person might well look at it and say, why don't we simply cut your grant funds in half because you're not using them?
Right. No, and I completely agree, and I can see George is itching to talk on it very, very quickly here. But there may be some legal boundaries here where we have to do this every year because there's a certain fund or whatever that's allocated appropriately. However, I concur that this is an unusual circumstance, and we certainly don't want money left in the fund, and we want to be able to give that out. That will also lead into our next discussion item after this, where I'd like to talk a little bit about Heritage Awards and Historic Preservation Month, and some of the awareness campaigns that need to happen. So, historic preservation certainly is an excruciatingly poignant part of the Bloomington story, and we are sort of the caretakers of it, the fiduciaries, if you will. And I think it's extremely important that we are making people aware that these funds exist and that we can use them to benefit them. I have, in fact, been approached by people in the past who are unwilling to use the funds, which is far more uncommon than those who are simply unaware that the funds exist to help them. So in saying that, I think it's extremely important that we do send some kind of message with it to say this is not the norm. We don't want this to be the norm. We intend to continue to use all of it, and we certainly would be extremely disappointed if the funding were to be reduced in the future.
Right.
I wouldn't bring in any statement about reduction of funds.
Oh yes, no, let's not say that. That
use
should
that
go
language.
unsaid. I'm saying it here, but I don't think it needs to be said with our message.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we can make a statement that, because as you say, the projects that people have been able to do because of COVID, because of the fact that they may have lost livelihood money, they just wouldn't be able to apply for something like this right now, because that project that they were going to do this year can't do it now because they're feeding their family with that money or whatever. So essentially, I think we can make that known that yes, this is a very odd situation, but because we have been limited in people coming forth to ask for funds for this, we still, as a commission, want to see it to go for preservation in some way. And we do know that the brick streets still need to be preserved. And since we don't have people coming in and asking for the money, rather than just saying, well, return it to the general fund and we don't care, we do care. I think that's the most important thing, is that we do care. So I agree with you, Greg. This was definitely, we need to put it to them to the point where to say, we do have a feeling about it. And yeah, don't count on this ever happening again, because it typically, we're right down at the end of it and going, oh, we don't have very much left and we're trying to do it. This is a very, very rare occurrence.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd be able to make it forthwith. I do think, though, that the council memo and perhaps even the draft resolution could have a whereas in there that makes a statement about this being an anomaly due to the COVID economic situation, or the economic situation occasioned by COVID.
Right.
Do we then need to wait to adopt the resolution, Mr. Boyle? I mean, I don't think we can because of the fiscal year. It sort of has to proceed.
But that's right. So I mean, I think you could make it at least for this year, and we could have the like I say, the memo could reflect that, and we could even say in the memo we've added something to the whereas clause.
Can we just count on you to do that? I don't know that we need to get in a whole lot of detail for all of that this evening.
Right. I think that will be fine, because we're not, the draft that we're putting usually is in there for demonstrative reasons. It's not necessarily, if you want to make as part of the motion that it be amended to have in the whereas section an explanatory note relating to the COVID-19 economic situation, and we'll act accordingly.
Specifically, the fact that construction has suffered throughout all forms in our community, so it's not unique to us. It's a shared burden.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can assure you that construction and architecture was not a particularly profitable enterprise last year.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution amended with that information.
I make a motion that we approve this as it stands, with the amendment that under the whereas clause, we have an explanation noting that due to COVID-19, construction has suffered, and we have been met with many fewer requests, and therefore we have a very unusual situation, which means we have money that hasn't been requested by other sources, and that is why we are allocating it to be spent on the fixing of or maintenance of brick streets.
Okay. It sounds like Georgine is seconding. I see her hand up.
Oh, there you go, Georgine.
Okay, she's saying yes. Okay. It's amazing what a hand motion will do. Perfect. Okay, could we please have a roll call vote then?
Mr. Castillo,
Yes.
Mr. Coos,
Yes.
Ms. Giselle, Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Ms. Peters, Mr. Charnett.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Okay, so the final notes that I have here, I'd like to discuss the Heritage Awards. These have obviously been postponed since last year. And there are also a number of items that we should discuss about how do we continue the mission here as Historic Preservation Month comes up. And I think, Katie, you and I had talked at some point about this. Maybe if you wanted to talk about how we weren't able to really give some of those recognition, the recognitions that were quite well deserved last year, but COVID hit right about that time, so here we are.
Thanks. Thank you, Chairperson Charnett. So you're right. Each year we try to do kind of a Heritage Awards in honor of National Preservation Month. And last year was a unique situation where we were able to vote on the nominations and designate recipients, but we were not able to recognize them formally. So this year for National Preservation Month, I've reached out with the town of Normal as well, and there's no intentions on hosting an in-person award ceremony from the town this year. I'm assuming Bloomington probably also will not be able to host an in-person ceremony. Staff has had some conversations with the downtown development division about potentially partnering for the month of May to recognize, to do, a First Friday event tailored towards National Preservation Month, as well as just promotions where we can highlight preservation efforts and the downtown National Register Historic District and Main Street. And so we have had those conversations, but we have not had the opportunity to have an in-person award ceremony from last year, and probably will not have the opportunity this year as well to do an in-person award ceremony.
Okay, unfortunate news from our favorite city planner. Nevertheless, we certainly take very seriously the precautions that we're taking, and so we want to be respectful, and it certainly makes a lot of sense. Hopefully that will change, and perhaps we can rediscuss this maybe even in the fall. Maybe it's just postponed, but not totally forgotten.
We could look at, I'm just throwing this out there, I guess we could put this back on the agenda, but one thing we could talk about is, recognizing our award winners from last year, this month during Preservation Month, maybe in partnership with the farmers market or the museum or something, not necessarily an award ceremony. And then in October is National Planning Month. Perhaps at that time we could bring back the award ceremony for 2021, if you'd like, or see about doing something in October, like you said, Chairperson Charnett. So
we don't have any placards or whatever made up that say, something like Preservation Award winner, because we could, have those even with just a little thing that said, past or whatever, just to highlight some of the places that we have found to be worthy of awards, and that would be at least a public statement where you see it or whatever, or maybe even to put on maybe the city's website or even whatever, if whatever the area in the website that would, where we actually fall, perhaps have photographs of some of the places that we have given awards to in the past, and say, unfortunately, we can't do it because of COVID this year to have an awards ceremony, but we want you to be aware that we have found these particular buildings to be worthy of our notice, and we want you to be aware of them too. And I don't know, I don't know, just something we could put up there that's a visual that they could see. Yes, Greg.
How about a yard sign?
That's what I was kind of thinking too. Yeah,
Just you know, a regular yard sign that are inexpensive. That's something that we could, you know, send a letter to them and say, we can't do an award ceremony. We'd like to recognize you. Could we put a, you know, a good-looking, well-designed, pretty, you know, yard sign in your yard saying that you're, you know, you got an award, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a very reasonable thing. Can we
like
take some of that money that we just used to do that, or?
Yep. Maybe we
I
should
don't know, what would they cost, you know?
all that money taken out and, you know, use that.
Are they like $5 a piece or something, you know?
Katie doesn't seem so worried. Ms. Peters, please.
Would we have any interest in doing like a virtual event?
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, we could have, like, I know when we did the one, whatever, 2 or 3 years ago, we combined with the Town of Normal and Guild House Society, and we had, you know, little, you know, presentations, and we could do that virtually, and then, you know, they could, you know, pick up the awards at the city hall, or they could be dropped off at their door, or I don't know, just an idea.
That is a good idea. What do you guys think?
I think we're going to be asking a lot of poor Katie for trying to manage some of that, and Caitlin. But I think it's a very reasonable idea. I certainly like it a lot. I like the idea of the yard signs too a lot. I like the yard sign because it's not just recognition to those who know about this award, but it's also to people who know nothing about historic preservation or whatever as they drive past. So to me, that's the bare minimum that we would do. And then if we can do this sort of virtual meeting, I think that's an excellent way to still meet, still congratulate, still give some recognition.
I remember when they had the Pillsbury exhibit at the museum, and like the Pillsbury properties had, you know, a yard sign out in front of them, and it kind of drove traffic to the exhibit. And so if we could get the yard signs made, put out ahead of time, even maybe promote the virtual event on the yard signs, I would certainly be willing to help Katie and staff with that.
I would too.
Well, and it'd be even great if we did like a QR code on the yard sign, so you could just pop it right up, and that's when it'll be. And you know, it takes nothing to do a QR code now. So
Our next meeting is April 15th. How about if we put this on the agenda, and then at that point, maybe we can either vote to establish a subcommittee to work on the National Preservation Month, or George, is that what you were going to say?
Right. We really can't take any action today other than to decide if we want to put it on a future agenda for some action.
Yeah.
And
I concur very much with that. I think that makes plenty of sense. There's not a whole lot of planning time left. So I don't know if we could even form a subcommittee before we meet to maybe establish that. Is that a problem, George?
as far as, I'm sorry, could you say that last part?
just to form a subcommittee that then we could report on some of that. Form a subcommittee at this meeting that then we could report on at the next meeting. To
I don't think there's a problem with that. It's not necessarily a final action.
Okay. Then I think we should do that, since there would not be a whole lot of time after the April 15th meeting.
Okay.
So Georgine, I think, should be chair of that, since she has no way to say no.
Oh, Georgine.
She still got her hand up, so she's clearly volunteering herself.
He wants it. Okay. I would be happy to be on that committee. Looks like Don says yes too, huh?
Yes, Dawn's a yes.
And I think we
Yay.
have a maximum of 3, if I remember correctly, because of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, so Georgine and Dawn and me. So how are we going to proceed, ladies?
I think you're probably okay with that. I do want to, going back just a little bit, and this is an abundance of caution, but since we do want to make sure that we get that resolution before council, we may, and no offense to Georgine here, but we may need a verbal second from someone on that previous motion to supplement the record with the motion with respect to the resolution that we'd bring before council, attributing the leftover funds to the Brick Street.
Okay, so I was the one who made the motion, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so somebody besides Georgine want to say,
Second.
there we go.
Dawn was first.
All right.
So.
Okay, well, thank you.
She was the first second. Well, actually, the second.
Now we have a second. All right.
Okay.
The motion
All right.
was seconded and thirded.
Yes, we have that.
One of my life ambitions is to be one of the world's great seconders.
And you might be the first thirder, actually.
Oh dear, who's on first? Okay, this is going sideways fast. Okay,
One second. Can you or one of the staff connect the 3 of us via email? And
Yeah.
so that we can work on that?
Yep,
Yes.
we'll follow up. We'll be sure to follow up tomorrow or early next week.
All right,
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Don, for asking about that.
yeah, okay. Always very good.
Facilitator. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like those are the big pieces. There have been some initiatives that we've talked about in the past about Historic Preservation Month and some of the things that we can do for awareness. The Heritage Awards, of course, being most paramount to those. Is there anything else that we should be addressing for Historic Preservation Month? We've even talked about in the past, showing some things on the city website, sort of highlighting the history of the community. We talked about putting things in the paper. We've talked about architectural tours. We've talked about all kinds of things. Mr. Coos, I think you know a little bit about some of this and the History Museum as well. So
I guess it's a timing issue or question. Is the Lakota Group report going to be ready in May? What's the timing on that? Because if it's ready, I can't think of a better way of celebrating historic preservation than to make a hoopla over that report and to focus on getting that report into people's consciousness. It's a magnificent piece. I mean, it is a sterling piece of work. It's one of the best pieces I've seen. And so I really think that if we could celebrate that, it would be pretty cool. You know, it's something that people can download, they can look at. You can do some stuff, but I would concentrate as much as you can about getting that report into people's hands and getting it into their heads.
We need to try to get something on the pantograph for that, I think. Get that right out there. That would be great.
We're hopeful to have the final document in May. We have a draft copy that staff is reviewing, and then we will send to the steering committee to review. And then, yep, I would agree with you, Mr. Coos. I think May would be a nice wrap up of the entire project and promote Preservation Month. I completely agree.
And a way that can be, I know Paul would enjoy doing this, and I would help him with it, and that is to start scheduling presentations and discussions of that for the variety of clubs and organizations in the community. To get in front of people and talk to them about it, because it gives.
You said it so right, and I think it's such an important document. And as you said, it's a sterling document. They've clearly done a lot of work and a lot of very good work. And I'm really excited that the community has invested in it via this commission. But it really goes to show that we're making an effort for preservation in planning as well as in practice. And so I'd also like to say that there are some historic preservation kind of webinars and seminars and that kind of things that typically happen in the month of May, and I think it would be good to sort of bring some of those to the forefront. I don't know if we need to connect with Old House Society or Town of Normal. Anything that we can do to kind of bring even that much more awareness is very good. Anything that we can tag on to. I've even suggested to Katie, Russell has a fantastic presentation called Home 2, and is one of my absolute favorite presentations that he gives, because it talks about McLean County as he took pictures from a motorcycle. And you have to imagine Russell on a motorcycle in 1978 taking pictures. But such a fascinating sort of view of what McLean County is, and particularly how Bloomington has adapted over the years. So would be excellent to see whatever we can see, but we can certainly postpone some more discussion until the next meeting, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I have some corned beef waiting for me at home.
So I take it that you would like to have a motion to adjourn, Mr.
I would
Chair?
very much love a motion to adjourn, because I'm really excited for it.
Right. I so move that we adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. And I think we still have to have one more roll call vote. No? No, we can do it. All favors say aye. All right, aye. That's great.
Aye.
Aye.